Hey, thanks for tuning in today. A lot of us know that Ralph passed away last Saturday on January 22nd, Ralph Natale. Um, Believe me, this isn't a tribute to him. I was upset with Ralph in my own way. I'll explain that later. I saw him on Valuetainment, and that really upset me. But that's not why I was upset with him. I was been upset with him for years. There's other reasons. I'll talk about that after. But I want to get a little into Ralph right now and talk about him and his short stay as supposedly being the boss of Philadelphia from 1995 to 99. Everybody knows, and I think it's clear enough that everybody that Ralph really wasn't the boss of Philadelphia. He was Joey's frontman. What happened? Now, I ended up going down to Philadelphia through Ralph Natale from Frank Rossi. Frank Rossi was in my crew, Charlestown guy, Italian, out of Charlestown, bank robber, was a bad guy. And he did some time with Ralph in Lewisburg. And he got to know Ralph really well. They used to talk when they came home, all that nonsense. And Frankie kept pushing me to go down there to meet Ralph and meet the Philly guys. And I took a while to do that, but I finally went down and I met Ralph. I met him at the pub in New Jersey. I liked Ralph right off the bat. Now, Frankie told me this man carried himself very well in prison. He was in tune with all those New York guys. He was friends with a lot of them. Everybody liked Ralph. He was well respected. So I'm not going to talk bad about Ralph in those days and in that way. He did his time very well, well-respected guy in the can. So when I go down originally to meet Ralph at the pub, I went down there with Frank Rossi, Tommy, a few of my guys. And at that time, I was a proposed guy in the Patriarca family, but that wasn't working out. And I explained that to Ralph. We had a long conversation privately between ourselves. And he's telling me about the guys at Philly, about Joey and a few of the guys down there. And we're talking back and forth. And eventually, I went to another meeting with Ralph, and I ended up meeting Giorgio Borghese. I've told this story before, but this is for new people that haven't seen it. Once I hooked up with Georgie and I met Joey and the rest of the crew, I did meet Ralph a few times at the racetrack in Cherry Hill, and I'll talk about that a little further in the show. But right now, listen, I'm a Christian. It's sad when anybody passes. You can only pray for their souls, no matter what type of person. I really don't want people to judge Ralph for what they saw on Valuetainment. This is just an older man now. But, I'll tell you, when I was down there in the few years that I was around Ralph, I picked up a lot of stories from the guys down there. I don't want to talk too much. I don't want to incriminate myself, but, Ralph had a lot to say on Valuetainment. And I'm going to play a clip for you right now, and then I'm going to explain that clip to you. So I'll be right back.
Nicky Scarfo, I wouldn't treat him if I turned my back. That's what he was.
You wouldn't what? I couldn't hear you.
I wouldn't treat him if I turned my back on him.
Wow.
And did you see what Leonetti told when he went and gave whatever he
Testimony.
did? Testimony. He said, and my uncle told me to build the wall behind his kitchen and then the yard, and then there was an alleyway. He wanted me to build in a wall 8 foot tall, with cinder blocks. Why do you want me to build this wall? He said, because Ralphie asked Ange to kill me, and Ange turned him down. But he ain't going to listen to Ange, because he'll come up and kill me if it's easy. And that's proof. He said it. Your you're a man that told you this. And Leonetti never did nothing. He said he killed 20. He killed in his brain. And he listened. You listen to him, fine. It's up to you. Nobody's like me. Nobody. And I'm not telling you to believe it. I killed more people than cancer. For Angelo Bruno. For Joe Batters in Chicago. For the head of the Teamsters, head of the Coleman. Whenever they needed me, I was there. Everybody in Chicago belonged to Joe Batters. I was in prison already in Lewisburg. I had
You know, now seeing this clip, Ralph had a really high opinion of himself, I guess to say. Now, I don't know if Ralph ever killed anybody in his life. There was some murders back in the 70s, some union murders. We know that he was the president of the Bartender Union, Local 170. We know that he did get up there. We know that he was without Bruno. We know he was around these people. But to what extent, I don't know. You know, he's talking about all murders that he gave up to the feds. He might have had part of it, went along with it, but I'm sure if Ralph was in any danger in those unions, people were trying to push him out, that Angelo Bruno would have stepped right in. Angelo Bruno was the boss of Philadelphia for years, one of the founders there in Real Cosa Nostra. And believe me, if Ralph was in position because of Angelo, no one would be able to touch him. So, you know, I want to talk a little more. You know, I got some stuff I jotted down about Ralph. I got it sitting over here. Who's it born? You know, Ralph was born in South Philly, March 6, 1935. This was an old man, my friend. You know, and at one time a good guy. And he was around all these people. You know, but he claims that he was Jimmy Hoffa's right-hand man, Carlo Gambino's right-hand man, Chicago's right-hand man. He was everybody's right-hand man. This guy killed more people than Al Capone. I just don't see it. I don't believe it. And believe me, when he come home, I'm not saying the Philly guys murdered anybody. But, you know, if there was any murders committed, it was by the Young Turks of Philly, not by Ralph. You know, I sat with Ralph once myself, and we were talking. And he said, Bobby, I don't do anything unless I talk to the guys in Philly. And I knew that, and he told me that then. You know, and that's when I started realizing, you know, Joey was really the boss of the family, and Ralph was his front guy. And like I said, it came right out of his mouth. I don't do anything unless I talk to them. He's meaning Joey, Georgie, Lance, the crew down there, Steven. Yeah, no way in the world is Ralph going to give an order and they're not going to okay it. I'll go do it, because we know Ralph's not going to do it. Ralph's on there talking like he was the worst guy since Al Capone, talking about Carlo, talking about Angelo. You see what he says here about Nicky Scarfo and Philly and Eddie. I mean, I don't know. It's just stuff that came out of his mouth at that meeting. And I'm saying, you know, he's an older guy. You know, maybe, you know, things happen when you get older. You know, look at me. I don't remember what I ate yesterday. But to embellish and do what he was doing. And this is the craziest thing. I want you to look at this clip, and we're going to come back to that too.
Become a boss, though, because that's where the controversy comes in.
Well, what's the controversy?
So you're in jail, you're in prison with Joey, you guys are thinking about coming out, there's a strategy to create a war because it's an opportunity for you to take over, you and Joey, and then, you know.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
I became a boss because I said, I'm the boss. I came home. Anybody that doesn't like it, I don't hide. I drive around, I go to the track. You could come. I was under parole, and I had a pistol on me. Go ahead, let him come. You know how many people said that? Nobody. Excuse me for raising my voice. It's just, I remember what my wife had to do.
So you came out and no one swore you in. You became a boss. There was no...
I was sworn in already, but I even forgot to tell him the only swearing in that I ever had was me, Angelo Bruno, and Carlo Gambino. All three of us cut our finger. Carlo said, that's got to be a president. We want it that way. You belong to me, and you belong to Ange now. That's why they sent me to Chicago. Nobody.
So now he's saying that in 1970, that Angelo Bruno and Carlo Gambino came out of this hotel, all right? They all cut their fingers and he became Cosa Nostra. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. And we all know that's not true. You know, he talks about Joey, he spits about Joey, badmouths Joey, but there's a little more to the story that I know of that I'm going to explain here. You know, when Ralph got out of prison in Joey in 1994, Joey straightened him out. I know that it was a couple in the family, not at that time. I came down afterwards. Ralph was already a made guy. Joey put him there on the seat as the boss. Now, please believe me, not everybody agreed with that. They wanted Joey on the seat. But I think Joey made a good move putting Ralph there. You know, like I said, from what I heard about Ralph in prison, he was well respected, good guy. New York guys loved him. He was a good guy. He's talking about sending messages out of New York. Anybody touches Joey, I'll kill them. This is just all nonsensical bullshit. And I just want everybody to know that. You know, like I said, again, I don't want to talk about the man passed away. And at one time he was my friend. I thought he was anyway. You know, we had a meeting down in South Philly. He attended. The rest of the guys were there with Joey. I took a friend down from Boston, a main guy from the Petriarca family. And they laid everything out for me and my friend. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to bring him into this. How they were taking me in their family. They were going to make me a capo, and they were going to straighten my crew up. The Petriarca was there with me, the other main guy, because they wanted the word to go back to the Petriarcas, what was going on with me in Philadelphia. And believe me, the word went right back. So he attended that meeting with us. Today, I still love the guy, but like I said, I'm not going to say his name. He's a retired guy, and he's a little older than me. Good people, and I want to leave him out of the conversation. But Ralph was there. Ralph attended that. You know, Ralph gets picked up on a violation because the story that I got, you know, Cherry Hill, they had all those places bugged. The racetrack at Cherry Hill, I heard he went on an exit door with, used to talk with Ronprevity. We all know about this jerk off. He's gone now. Biggest farmer in Philly. And, you know, Ralph kept telling him, I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss. And at that time got him violated, not knowing that Ronnie was an informant at the time, but I'm sure Ronnie was pulling that right out of him. He was a snake, and Ralph got violated. When Ralph gets violated and he's off the street, Joey started hearing about a lot of things this guy was doing behind Joey's back. Now, you remember, Joey was the boss of the family. Any move that Ralph made with anybody, grabbing money, whatever he was doing, had to go back to Joey. You know, but Ralph really thought that he was sitting up top up there. He really thought he was the boss. And he was getting a little too carried away with himself. I'll say this a little more about it too before I get into the next spot. You know, when I got down there and I started learning a lot of things about Ralph, Ralph's lucky he went to prison. Ralph makes statements that his family didn't get money, this didn't happen, that didn't happen. Ralph's lucky he didn't get whacked. You know, it was brought to Joey a few times with him. You know, but Joey was an honorable guy and Joey didn't want to hurt Ralph. So when Ralph went away, sometimes just going away is just better for everybody. You know, so obviously Joey had to take the helm and Joey made the decisions. I heard Ralphie absconded with a lot of money that he never told Joey about. We were getting bits and pieces of a lot of stories. Not that it was my concern of business, but I was a capo in the family at the time. So I was privy to some of these things. And a lot of the guys didn't want him there. They never wanted Ralph there, and they wanted Ralph gone. So like I said, I'm going to say again, this old man's lucky he went to prison. Anyway, long story short, I come to find out, they pick him up on a violation. A year later, he's getting re-indicted on drug charges again. This is why Ralph went with the federal government. Ralph knew he was never getting out again. You know, drug conspiracies for someone like him, all the time he did, this would be another drug charge with the feds. He was facing serious time. He's an old man. He didn't want to do it. So for him to keep pride and ego in himself, he blames Joey for everything. Let me tell you what Joey did. Joey put the mob back together after Stanford. Joey and that crew down there grew up in the life like I did. Joey's father, one-time underboss for Nicky Scarfo. And again, you hear the way he talks about Nicky Scarfo, Philly and Eddie. It's ridiculous, things that come out of Ralph's mouth. Like I said, again, this isn't a tribute to Ralph. This is me venting a little. So Ralph is getting hit with another drug charge. Ralph's not getting out again. Ralph knows this. This is why Ralph flipped. There was no other reason, okay? He might have been pissed off with what was going on in Philly while he was in prison, because like I said, he really thought he was the boss. He really did. So he might have been pissed off over that. Well, let me tell you, I'm sure there's more behind the story that I don't even know and that we're never gonna find out. So I say this again about Ralph. He's lucky he went away because he got to live his life out as an old man. The things that he come out in his book and the things he said. Now, he admitted on the stand that Joey made him. He had to admit that. He admitted that on the stand, but now he's saying it never happened. He just wants to take the credit away from Joey for everything that Joey did and all the young Turks in Philly did. And let me tell you, when I went down there, now I grew up with real wise guys up here in Boston, couples and soldiers that were very well organized with all their businesses that taught me. And when I went down there, I seen how organized these young guys were, how they had this put together. And they were doing the right thing with a lot of things. You know, so listen, when I hear things about that and about Joey and about the guys down there, it bothers me still. It really does. Now, we all know I talked to. I talked. I never mentioned any murders in Philadelphia, you know, but I did talk about some arrangements and minor things. My whole problem was in Boston, not Philly. I never wanted to involve the Philly guys in my problems up here. Even when I was on the street, till the time I got arrested. There was nothing in me that wanted to hurt these people. In fact, I fought and went to 5 status hearings to take my plea back so I didn't have to testify against my friends down there and my friends in Boston too. You know, I'm not trying to justify what I did. I did talk. You know, they got me on the shelf. They got me out of La Cosa Nostra. I wanted out. I'm not going to lie about that. But I know in my heart I didn't hurt anybody down there. And for this man to rant and talk the way he talks, and the viciousness in his voice, and the hatred he has towards these kids, he should have just hated himself for what he did. That's what he should have did. But like I said, I'm not going to continue going on ranting. All right, maybe a little more. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. Did 7 years there. Every time a guy that was in my unit had to go to trial in New York, of course, they take it to MCC. So I guess at one point, Ralph Natale's up there. And I was trying to send Ralph's messages here and there, just because, you know, we came from the same family, got made by the same guy, you know, you figured there's still a connection, you know. And all Ralph did was badmouth me. Because Ralph just grouped me in with the rest of the Young Turks in Philadelphia and had nothing good to say about any of us. And a lot of things he said was upsetting. And I knew then that he was losing his mind. There was something wrong with him, you know. But I'm not going to go on and on with this. But I feel, you know, something had to be said about it. So I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed venting a little with you guys. I wanted to do a show on Ralph before, but he was still alive. And, you know, I still had that old thing inside of me. You know, I don't go after people. I really don't. And I don't like to go after anybody. But I just felt I had to talk about this. You know, there's a lot of things come out of Philly about Joey and the guys. We were gangsters. We did things, you know. So some people love us. Some people think we're pieces of shit. But for Ralph to call us all pieces of shit, he's the biggest piece of shit out of everybody. Him and Ronprevity. So I just had to say that. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll have some other stuff coming up for you. And thank you for listening to my rant today. All right. Good night, everybody. I'll see you later.